good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. Thank you so much for taking your time out your day. We are going to get started here in just a minute. We will not. We're not big on waiting too long for everybody to jump in. So today we're talking AI adoption's up, but yet it's not having the bottom line impact that a lot of companies would be looking for. So I'm joined by two. Should I call you superstars? Should I call you? I don't know. Expert doesn't quite seem to do enough justification. First from DealHub, Eyal Orgil, Chief Product Officer over there, who's having a mammoth year, I will say, and a very good follow on LinkedIn. If you are not, by the way, I saw you had an article back in it was back in the summer talking about CPQ that I didn't realize it was a really good read. So Eyal, pleasure. Thank you for joining us today. How are things?
Things are going great. Appreciate you guys having us and looking forward to a great session.
Likewise, and you're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the back half of today's presentation that we'll pull you in, of course, throughout. And then Andy Boettcher, Chief Innovation Officer here at DoubleTrack. How are you, sir? Nice background. Not sure if I should bring my chess pieces, though you know I would.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of the effect here today, Caleb. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you and Eyal and talk through the topic here today. So this should be fun.
I think it will be, and a lot, very relevant. I think with AI continuing to push forward into the marketplace, it's not going anywhere. As we see, AI adoption is up. We're all using it more and more, and yet there's a core problem: is that okay? Just because you're using something doesn't mean it's actually making you more effective, or it's giving you the results that we're looking for. So, and you who are joining us here, whether it is live today, and I did promise some prizes, I will say. Stick around for the poll question. There's only one, but it's midway through, and I will tell you exactly what those are. So stick around, please, for that. You can throw in your questions into chat as well. They'll be coming to me, and we have a Q&A at the end. But if it's one of those questions where you're going, I need it now, and I see that, I may just butt in and interrupt with Andy and Eyal to get it answered quickly. So nobody likes to wait a half hour to get an answer to a question. We're all too impatient. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? We're going to talk about market realities, architecture, what's kind of leading up to the problem solution, if you will. And then we're going to dive into some real AI use cases. And Eyal is going to show us what a better quote to revenue system looks like. Thesis statement over here on the right-hand side is that AI is a massive opportunity, but most aren't ready for it. Most are not ready to take full advantage of it. And so AI adoption may be up, but the results are not. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we published some research highlighting some of this, starting with the fact that we did an analysis of what dirty data actually costs, and these are just US-based businesses. So the number only grows as you go bigger internationally. We only have the bandwidth to get to US at this point, but the information sector getting crushed. But we're talking over $600 billion annually in terms of costs from dirty data. So imagine, if you were 5% more effective, think $10 million ARR, that's 500K. But if it's a $50 million company, that's 2.5 million. And that only grows the larger your organization is. So it is a massive cost. And Andy, I'm going to bring you in here because it's also, as you have remarked publicly multiple times, it's not just some massive data dump or something. It's really friction throughout all sorts of processes that really adds up to this.
Yeah, Caleb, you're right? And I mean, part of the reason that you invited Eyal and I here on the webinar today is, I won't necessarily agree with exactly how you introduced us, but we've both been around the block a couple times. We've both taken steps back, and we've really looked at how a solid product and a solid preparation approach can come together to help organizations become ready, right? So there's a lot of stuff in this deck we're going to talk about today about why we need to slow down for a minute and think up front. What are our outcomes? How do we view this? And then once we get to the point where we're good enough, and then we can take a product like DealHub and absolutely blow the doors off of an organization to really start to grow the top line. right? So, looking at the slide here, I'm not much of a slide reader, so I'm going to talk around this. And those of you who are watching here today, I have these slides here a lot for kind of reminder talking points as I ramble my way through some of these topics here. But really, the way I look at this is everyone's got Salesforce or Dynamics or pick your ERP system, or pick, you got Gong over here, and you've got, I was just talked to another actually really kind of cool company this morning called Buzz. There's all these platforms and systems, and they all have data, and they all talk about how they interconnect. But when you come down to it, when the rep is sitting in the seat, right, they've got a whole bunch of tools, and they have data everywhere. They're information rich, but knowledge poor. That's kind of what it comes down to. So a lot of what I've been doing this stuff for 30 years in technology. I specifically have spent the last 3 years head first in this area of how do we make ourselves knowledge rich in an information crazy time that we have right now, with every single organization throwing AI at you. And some organizations are doing it as buzzwords. Organizations like DealHub are actually putting the results and the outcomes behind the work that they're doing. So how do we actually partner these together? So we start here. There's not a lot of relevancy, right? You have that rep sitting in the seat, and they're using like 8 different tools, and 80% of the data is sitting in their main tool, but then they got to reach out to other areas. But really, at the end of the day, it boils down to they're only using a fraction of their time to actually get out the door and push into your go-to-market, to bring leads into top of funnel and work a funnel to get you something to close. Go forward here, Caleb, for me. So, and you see, and everyone has been out looking. Like, you can sit there on LinkedIn and all the news articles, and you see that people are getting new jobs as AI evangelists, AI this, AI that, prompt agent this, prompt agent, like all of these AI focused jobs that are out in the market, which is great, because that tells us that the commercial world is embracing these technologies and are trying to figure out how to make it work. However, there's no easy button in technology. Eyal, like I bet I could get you to crack a smile when I say, who in this room has ever had a tech project actually live up to what the salesperson says was actually supposed to do? Or even 3 years down the road, you finally get through an implementation of people using it, still not exactly what the original vision was, right? But that stuff all, like, I spent the last 3 years focusing on data infrastructure. How do we actually assemble and look at, not systematically, not on a integration ERD, like the good tried and true stuff, which still matters, but how do we look at data as its own entity and think about it? And then we bring technology in place where it excels to express upon and consume that data. So that's where I look at this stuff, and I always cringe a little bit looking at, there's not a lot of good data infrastructure or data architecture roles that are out there to put the good foundation together to be able to use fantastic tools like DealHub. So there's some research that, Caleb, you mentioned we did our own research paper here a couple of months ago. You can look at, there's Gartner, there's all kinds of other great publications. I just read one from an MIT research group earlier this week that was released about the projects around AI are frankly failing left and right because everyone's rushing in. Everyone is rushing in, and there are some tools that can get you going for a while, but eventually, when you really start to focus on the outcomes of why you started it, a pure AI tool alone, without good structure, without good discipline, without good outcomes, it eventually is destined to fail, right? Yeah. So that's a lot of this piece here. Go ahead, Caleb.
I was going to, Eyal, I'd love to pull you in here real quickly, just as, because you're seeing this, especially in the SaaS and technology space, where there's a massive rush to incorporate AI. But I suspect you're seeing similar, similar results where, yeah, they're rushing in, but there's a lot of failure happening. Is that true, untrue? What are you seeing from your vantage point?
We're seeing failure. We're seeing people that are really not sure what they're trying to get or what results they're going to get. So they're not sure. And we'll talk about that when we get to my section a bit of what we've seen in terms of they're not ready for it yet. So they have all these high expectations. We see it from customers coming to us and saying, I have to buy something with AI, but what do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? And they don't always have that answer. They just have that mandate. It's got to be AI. It's not enough.
I think there's a lot of board level pressure coming down to innovate that's driving some of this. Andy, you actually already spoiled this slide a little bit, right? Go open an opportunity, and you can just see all the fields, maybe. And in fact, back in October, when you and I asked this question, everybody said less than 10. Everybody who was on that webinar said less than 10 fields were actually useful and relevant within an opportunity. But that's just an easy kind of to see example. So Andy, I'll ping it back to you here, because if we know this, and we know that they're not ensuring they have the underlying quality, governance, and infrastructure, Eyal, exactly what you said, right? They don't have these. When they're rushing to get AI something, it's not going to make the investment worthwhile. So Andy, I'll kind of ping it back to you here.
Yeah, actually, you know, Caleb, I'm going to have you step back one slide, right? The reason I'm going to have you step back this slide is I want to echo this out, right? And there are a couple very heavy words on this slide. So, and I told you guys earlier, I'm not a slide reader, except for this slide. This disparity suggests companies are racing to implement AI capabilities without ensuring they have the underlying data quality, governance, and infrastructure to make their investments worthwhile. Those are some pretty heavy words: governance, infrastructure. Part of what I've been learning over the past couple of years as we're in a world where the title of the slide, AI adoption is accelerating. There was the old technology tenet where the number of semiconductors on a chip would double every 2 years, right? Now we're in a world, if you bring that into the AI world, it's doubling every 2 weeks. It's insane about how fast some of this technology is going, right? So you start talking about, okay, well, this didn't work. Why? I need to put a governance program. I need to put an MDM model in place. Like, whoa, right? Things are going so fast that one of the big things that DoubleTrack we bring to the table with this in the way that we look at data first methodology and data first infrastructure is we try to change how you look at it to be able to accurately and quantitatively arrive at good enough. I don't need to do a 3-year governance project or a 3-year MDM implementation. I need to get it in a good enough place where I trust it for specific reasons that we'll get into in a future slide here to help frame that piece up. Then we can move right into a tool that can use that data and really start blowing the doors off. So sorry, Caleb, for making you go backwards. Go ahead. Yeah. So here, this is another just amplification of the messages we've been talking about. This would happen to be Gabe Larson here. He caught this on LinkedIn that everybody is using AI today. Everyone's rushing in. And I used the term earlier of information rich but knowledge poor. All we're doing with a lot of these AI tools is making more noise faster, right? We're making more noise faster. And what it's actually doing is it's not getting in front of eyeballs. It's actually doing the opposite. Eyal, I know this is a piece in your product strategy that I have to imagine you grappled with is how can you take all of this great technology and not have it turn into noise? How can you turn it into quality outputs that people will pay attention to? We have a very limited, although today's world, it makes us very fractioned for our attention spans, but we always have a very limited attention span. So you can see in here, 96% of revenue teams using AI. Quota attainment still fell. That's because you're pumping stuff into the sphere that is just AI slop for most of these tools. Come read this blog. Come watch our webinar. Oh, sorry, Caleb, did I say that out loud? I'm just kidding. But
I'm wounded.
But that's why we're talking live on this, because we're trying to be authentic and we're trying to bring a message from two industry long-term people that are bringing a point of view in to challenge you all to think slightly differently than how you think about your data and how you think about a CPQ platform, right? So keep going here, Caleb. Caleb, I'm gonna let you kind of talk a little bit around me on this slide here, right? So really this is making sure and all of the news, all of the research articles that we've done, when you get to the end of it, behind all the fluff and the flash, people who have invested in a solid data infrastructure, architecture, data first mindset, they have been able to float the boat longer until the real outcomes start to come out and the value starts to surface. Caleb, I know you had a big hand in helping orchestrate this around all of my crazy around the research. There's a point or two I know you have on this slide specifically. You want to speak to those real fast and we'll keep going?
I mean, the big one, which is linked, and everybody will have access to all of these links, right? So you can see the hyperlinks. We just certainly want you to go read the research yourself. The biggest takeaways are just that no matter which company you're looking at, whether it's Gartner, whether it's BCG, whether it's other research components, whether it's what we've been looking at ourselves, some of the work that we've been publishing, it's all pointing to the same direction, as that there's a lot of AI acceleration without the necessary data first mentality, if you will. And I loved this one from BCG because it's future proof. They're investing over 2 times as much in the data infrastructure, and you can't attain AI readiness without it, which I think lends itself exactly to, okay, well then what does this look like, which is going to set then Eyal up for then what does building on that and AI awesomeness look like. But you have to start with, and that's what we are starting with, okay, data architecture first and foremost, because otherwise you're just going to make the same mistake everybody else is making.
Exactly. So this is a little bit of the wink secret sauce about what DoubleTrack is bringing to the table. So I'm going to go through these next couple slides and kind of set up how we think about things, but I really want to get the mic over to Eyal to be able to let him talk about DealHub and how he's using a lot of this same idea and concept, and then show his platform and show how he's using it in the real world, right? So so this slide here, there's a really, kind of a funny snake icon over there on the right. I am not an artist, y'all. So, right. So really what I'm trying to illustrate with this is any data question, we take technology off the table, we take our integrations off the table. We're sitting down and working with the business to understand truly, like, what are you trying to do? What are the outcomes you're trying to get to? And before we start talking about, well, I want to use Claude for this and OpenAI for that, and I want to use Azure for this, and I want to light up this stuff over in Snowflake, and I want Domo to do all this reporting. Like, hold tight. Those are hows. What and why? What and why are we trying to do? And this model that's shown here on the right is everything starts at data. That's the stuff that we pull together. Do we have the data to be able to actually talk about this thing? I don't care how it gets here, but do we have this stuff? Data begets information. Information's our tactical day-to-day operational reporting. Information begets insights. That's what starts to tell us what we're feeling or have a gut reaction, positively or negatively, where we're going to make decisions. And then ultimately we use data, information, and insights to build knowledge. So if we look at something as simple as I'm trying to take 5% of my attrition off the table for fiscal 2026, that could be a very legit topic. How do we do that? Well, we're going to track all this stuff and we're going to send out all these emails and we're going to have our account manager go talk to people. Well, okay, well, hold tight. How are we going to measure this? What true knowledge are we looking to gain to change our own behavior? And let's work back down the pyramid and understand if we have those data points to feed knowledge to us. Other than that, we're just doing an exercise, right? So Caleb, keep flipping through here. The next piece here is, I think we went one slide a little further here, but yeah, let's work with this one here. I tend to get a little long-winded, and I've asked Caleb to kind of keep me on track here. So once we kind of get through that, what are you actually trying to do? And we start to look at your data and categorize it and bucket it. Every organization, I don't care what you call it, like every organization is going to call some of these slightly different, but everyone has customer data, sales data, quote data, purchase data, invoice data, service data, marketing data, and comm data. Comm data being structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data, right? This all comes down to that. When we're working with our partners at DealHub to put these things together, we tie in here primarily to our quote domain and our invoice domain. What does that mean? What data should belong in there? Why should that data be in there? What data should not be in there, right? Which then leads us forward to the next slide, which is one of my favorite ones to talk about, is once we figure out and get an organization to think about their data in this more abstract way, then we challenge and we say, okay, we've got these 19 pieces of data. Caleb, you'll even go back to your question you had earlier in the deck here, which was open up your Salesforce or with your opportunity screen, and how many of the fields actually matter, right? This is the root of that question. We're going to look at the data in all of these domains and say, is your data relevant? Does it matter? Does it matter to the knowledge I'm trying to get to, or is it just a data point I'm trying to collect? Is it revealing? Is it going to show me something that I didn't know before, or lead to show me something that I didn't know before? Is it reliable? Is somebody going to actually make sure it's there by hand, or is there an integration that's going to make sure I always have that data? And is it reusable? Can I use this more than once, or is it a one-time piece? I would challenge anybody to the one-time piece of data is not something valuable to hold, right? And I look at this thing and kind of lick your thumb, put it in the air. I want every piece of data in a perfect world to match these 4 R's, but in all reality, it's probably going to hit 3 or 4 of them. As long as it hits 3 or 4 of them, then we can say, we can nod our heads together and we can say, yes, we feel good that this piece of, excuse me, this piece of data is good to go, and we're going to put it on the shelf inside that domain. And now we can feed it to a platform like DealHub, where that piece of data we know is going to make a difference. Okay. Okay, Caleb, hit me forward here. So I think I'm going to come to the end of my piece here. Caleb, almost on time, even.
You are right on time. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. So one of the big messages, I talked a lot here for the first 20 minutes of our webinar. The one big thing I want to have people take away here is, as you walk forward into using whatever flavor of AI, whether it's a pure AI piece agent or it's an awesome agent on top of a platform like DealHub, I want you to always walk away and be able to say, is my data put together in the right way to make that tool truly sing, right? Data architecture is the foundation you cannot ignore. You don't need to spend 3 years doing it, but you got to think about it. Many are ignoring it, and you'll see it in all of the research articles that are published out there. And Eyal and I can attest in our experiences, even in our networks, there's a lot of organizations that are spending a lot of money to try this stuff out, do POCs, and they're putting it back on the shelf. So you don't have to. We can help. That's what I want you to take away from the first half of this piece. So with that, Caleb, I'm going to hand the mic back to you and kind of let you go through this. And then Eyal, I'm super excited to see how we apply this stuff and how you have put DealHub together to make this stuff sing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the AI use cases in action, right? Because AI, I think there's a huge struggle between concept and application. Oh, there's all these concepts. You can do this, you can do this. And yet, we saw earlier a stat, even 42% of surveyed organizations were planning on scrapping their AI initiatives. Why? Well, because they're not seeing the return on investment. Like, that was one of the big things of the MIT study that came out, right? Which was somewhat misquoted by some publications, but a lot of the generative AI pilots were not showing a return on investment. And at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be held accountable to, especially if your CFO comes calling. So based on that, then, for you who are listening right now, how ready would you say your organization is for AI based on everything that Andy just said, but also based on some of those research points that maybe we highlighted at the beginning? So here in just a moment, we're going to open up that poll. And then I want you to be able to take that and be able to answer. And I'm very curious to see what these responses are going to be. Let me.
Caleb, I just want to ask a question as you're waiting for people to poll in here. Eyal and I, we're not eligible for the prize, are we?
You are not. However,
right.
You know what? If I finally fly up to where you are, then I will take you out to lunch myself, because that, I will say, as you are answering this, the prize is I'm going to reach out one-on-one and going to buy you lunch. Just as a thank you for spending some of your time with us. We want to make sure that you have something nice, something practical as well. Look, we could do something like a giveaway. We could do something like one-on-one with Andy. And if you're interested in that, let me know. But I will be reaching out one-on-one and just buy you lunch. No strings attached, just for being here, just as a thank you. So look for those emails. I'll be sending those in the next couple of business days. Might be Friday, might be Monday here. But just for spending time with us, we want to say thank you. And everybody likes food. So, and the results are, I love this. I love this. Eyal, I want to come to you first. Was this kind of the distribution you'd expect? People, we think we're more ready than we are versus we're finding out the hard way, or what were you expecting here, if anything?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that people probably do think that they are, but yeah, reality is I'm not sure if they really are.
I feel like when we've all started using some of these tools that are out there, and Andy, I know you're doing some crazy stuff right now. We think we're ready, and then we get in, and 30 minutes in, we're going, oh, I don't know nearly as much as I thought I did. Andy, have you been kind of feeling that as well, like as you've been developing and building?
Yeah, actually, these poll results make me smile, right? Because everyone's finding it out. It's hitting the two middle pieces. And no, we didn't engineer the survey to come out that way. This is when we listen to people and really get them to come forward with authentic conversations. It makes me very happy that they're trying. That's the biggest piece of this. They're trying. There are some organizations that are too scared to move, right? I mean, they're out there. But everyone on the poll here today, you guys should give yourselves all a pat on the back. You're trying it, and you have the self-awareness to know that, it's not quite going exactly right, but we're not throwing the towel in yet. So that's my viewpoint on that, Caleb.
So everybody can pat yourself on the back while you're eating a nice lunch as well. Trying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You absolutely try something and then innovate and sometimes fail forward. But something that does not fail forward and in fact works the first time and is pretty awesome, Eyal, you have some interesting applications of what we've just talked about, especially with AI and into the entire quote to revenue process, really fueling the revenue engine. So I'm going to pass the mic to you and you can take it away from here.
All right, hopefully we've got my screen up on right now. So I want to just take step back a little bit and talk about how we look at being ready for AI and what needs to be done. So we're all familiar where we are with AI today. We're all using it for research, marketing, and writing. It's not an email that goes out that I don't send that doesn't go through ChatGPT, and using all kinds of bots. What we're really interested is going and finding out where we can use it for quoting, for pricing, for building out contracts. Something people don't think about is even buyer experience, how we can utilize AI to add and improve buyer experience. So these are the kind of things that we look at when we talk about AI. So if you want to use AI, first and foremost though, going to the bottom, you need to know what it is that you want to get some value. You've got to know what your pains are. Now, are those pains that I have processes that are stuck? I'm missing information. I'd like to automate certain things. So you have to look at what your pains are, what kind of value you can get, and then take a look at what the AI capabilities that are available. Now, AI capabilities, this is where we have to be very careful. I don't think most people look at this aspect of things as, are they ready to go and utilize the AI capabilities? And what do I mean by that? I'll give an example. When we started putting together some of our AI capabilities, which we're going to look at in a few minutes, of doing some, getting some insights, I started playing with the solution. This is going back about a year ago, and I was amazed that I was getting almost 95% of the answers, the results that were coming back to me were wrong. They simply were wrong. And it just turned out that we just weren't ready for, our AI wasn't ready for what I was trying to do. I was asking it, for example, how many licenses did we sell last quarter, when the system was tuned for how many users did we sell last quarter. So it wasn't really tuned to it. We use ChatGPT. We tend to think, we ask a question and we get an answer, and it's usually not even right the first time either. So if I'm asking it for licenses or users, I'm expecting a certain result, but my system isn't ready to get that. So we learned that we had to go and tune things. So we're not always necessarily purely ready. We really have to look at what are the AI capabilities that we have available, and are we ready for that? And we're going to be talking about some of those things in the next few minutes as well, in terms of readiness. But first I want to take another step back and look at what is it that we expect from AI and what is the reality in the world today. And things are changing though, so we'll take a look at that. I want to talk about how we raise AI. We look at it like being like a teenage child. You've got to give it some governance, some controls, teach it the right methods to work and all that. So that's very important if you're going to get some value out of AI. So we'll talk about that. Then I want to talk about some of the things that, in order to make AI effective in the quote to revenue process, whether it's just quoting or whether you want to get more into the revenue side of things, what are the things that we need to take a look at? And then, as was mentioned, we'll look at some practical examples as well of things that we've got running right now with the AI. So first of all, looking at expectations. We all expect things to go and get automated, which is something obviously we want to do. Can things get automated? Do we have processes in place? Let's talk about those things and see, can we actually get some automation out of that? We're all expecting to get personalized experiences that we can provide to our end customers. So that's something we really want to get from AI. Deeper insights is the promise as well. So we're going to go and get a lot more information available to us. and even reduce some risk, because AI is going to take care of all those problems and all those areas that we don't want to get into or that could get us into trouble. So that's what we're expecting. But what in fact is the reality? Well, when it comes to the reality, first of all, we're not always getting accurate information. Are we basing it on the right information? We talked a few minutes ago about data. Do we have the right data in place? So I can only get the right accurate information if I've got the right data. We may not have the right data, so we shouldn't be expecting accurate results. I think this one goes without say, hallucinations. I always like to tell a great story that my CTO told me back around the summertime, or before the summer, in the spring. He was planning a summer vacation and did a complete plan through, whether it was ChatGPT or Claude, I don't remember which tool he was using, and went through, and then after got a great plan, and he was about to go up the east coast of Maine, and then went into Google to just do some research, a little bit more details on the areas that the AI had given him, and it turns out it had given him places that don't exist. It gave him, pictures of things that just weren't reality. They weren't the places they were at. So that's the extreme sense of end of hallucinations. But if we're doing it in a quote to revenue process, we simply can't afford any kind of mistake. We can't have those hallucinations pop up. But that's still the reality of AI. It is getting better, it's no question, but we're still there. I think consistency and bias is also something we have to look at. If I'm quoting, I can't have a different price come out every time. I use ChatGPT today, and every time I ask it to analyze a sentence or a paragraph, it gives it a tweak. I don't get a consistent answer. I would have expected to say, hey, buddy, I just showed you this a minute ago. This is the way you want to say it. Here's the small changes that you requested. And that's fine if it was in a text environment, but what happens if it's pricing? And even things like bias. I look at going into ChatGPT, and it gives me results back of things that my marketing team has put in. We have it in our own ChatGPT environment, a corporate environment. So I'm getting information back that we plugged in ourselves. I'm not getting true, clean data, and that can pop in. So biases can really affect what we're getting. Governance and control, I think this was brought up before as well, is super important. What kind of controls are in place to limit certain things? And we'll talk more about this, obviously, when it comes into things like quoting. What kind of pricing structures are allowed, not allowed, what kind of approval process and all that. So the reality is we need to have these in place. I think we did talk about data, but the data privacy and the security side of things, if you're using AI tools today, is the data being pulled out of your system? Is that data available to somewhere else? Are you losing control of that? Is your data exposed? So we really have to take a look at that aspect as well. And auditing is also super important. I get so many times that I hear about solutions out there that want to go and give you the ability to quote using AI, but it may be easy if you're a private company. If you're a public company, I'd really like to see the face of the auditor that you tell them, well, the pricing came up by the AI and it was just decided, the AI decided to make that pricing. So I really want to see how that's going to go over in an audit process. So you really need to understand and have that ability to have things audited.
Yeah, and Eyal, an interesting part on that last slide there is kind of going back to our poll question of how ready would you say your organization is for AI? Those reality pieces, if I look at expectations, the expectations are the positive, the hopeful, the optimistic side. The reality side tends to be the pessimistic blocker, no, no, no. Your example about the publicly traded company is, or like an SEC monitored organization is perfect here, right? There are so many reasons why not to, that organizations are also having to fight upstream to be able to unlock some of this and try this stuff out. So great slide that you put together to really kind of hammer that piece home.
I appreciate the input. That's pretty exactly right. Let me try to click ahead here. So what are the things that we need to be looking at today when we're talking about quote to revenue? There's a number of different pillars that we have to look at. Sales has changed. So when we're going to be looking at how our AI tools are using this, are they looking at the way sales is actually working today? We have direct sales, indirect sales, self-service, PLG motions have all come into play. We've got product portfolios that change all the time. We have new products coming in, new bundles, the way products go together, product dependencies and prerequisites and all that. And if we're going to be putting AI around some of these things, it needs to be able to understand that. Different pricing models as well, and it's a mix of pricing models today. You're selling a lot of one-time deals, recurring, obviously the SaaS business, but consumption and the hybrid motions of these are coming into play. There's buyer demands for a lot more personalization and the ability to do a lot more self-service. So when we're talking AI, are we taking these things into account? And of course, contractual exposure as well. What kind of visibility is there to data, managing risks and so forth? So these are sort of the pillars that we have to be taking a look at and making sure we're taking into account. But what's really important in AI is it's not just about scalability, it's about consistency, standardization, and auditability. If it's pricing, I'm getting consistent pricing or approval processes. It's a standardized look and feel. The content is the same. The clause is a contractual clause. If I think AI can do that, it better come out in a standardized format. And we talked about the auditing as well, the auditability. We have to be able to keep track of these things. So we can't be thinking AI just for the sake of getting things like being able to grow faster, scale, and all that. We have to make sure that we're not forgetting these things that are super important to the organization. So if we want to be ready for AI, I sort of grouped it into the areas that we need to be taking a look at. We need to have governance controls, we have to have processes and workflows, and we have to make sure that we have accuracy of data. So if we look at governance, do we have pricing structures? AI can build pricing for us, but it's got to have some controls around that. What are we allowing? What are our tier structures? What are max and min pricing? So if you're going to have any kind of AI involved in that, it's got to take that into account. And I talked about a moment ago, how do products come together? There are prerequisites, there are dependencies. We can't have products that are sold in Europe go together with products that are sold in North America, just from the power side of things. We have different voltages and things like that. So we have to have those controls around what can be put together. Contractual terms, we have to have it structured so that we know what terms are for North America, what terms are in Europe, obviously GDPR type clauses that have to go in for data privacy and security in Europe, if you're selling certain kinds of products in certain areas. And what obligations do you have as well, whether that's government obligations or other types of obligations, you need to make sure these are ready. You've got these processes and these motions in play. On the process and workflow side of things, do you have your approval processes built out? So we want to have an approval process, but the AI can't create it on its own. It's got to know who has certain limits of what they're allowed to discount up to 10%, 20%, 50%. Who are the people that are involved in that? What are those controls around that? What if we're adding in a new product? Who needs to approve that? Does it have to go to the product team? Upsells and renewals. How do we do that? Do we allow early renewals? Do we co-term all of our renewals? What's allowed in an upsell? Maybe an upsell needs an additional product when we upsell. So you could go to an AI and say, hey, build me out a quote, and it'll add another number of, say, users if it's a software SaaS environment. What if I need another platform fee that goes with that when I've scaled beyond something like that? It's important to also have the data flow of what's happening with the data after it's gone through a quote process. It's going on to back-end processes, revenue recognition, order fulfillment, obviously invoicing. Are we capturing the right data? Do we have the right information? We can't just have something be generated without all thinking of what's that downward flow, which also downward flow is the delivery. We have to deliver things, we have to provision things, we have to be thinking about those things as well. And then in terms of the data, in terms of, like I say, the accuracy of the data, first of all, are we capturing the data? Now that's just to say, are we capturing, if it's a quote, is it the quote? Is there metadata that goes with that, where we're delivering it to, the start dates, the end dates, if it's a software SaaS, or if we're shipping it to it, where's different items going to? On a construction site, are we shipping different pallets to different parts of the building? So all that information has to be captured and stored so that we can go and access that later on. So if you're going to be ready for AI, you need to make sure your business is ready for AI from terms of governance, in terms of your flows, and in terms of your data. So what we've done at DealHub is we've looked at it from a different point of view, or our point of view is to say, let's provide AI, but let's provide AI for the people that need it, and what are the things that they need for those processes. So what we did is we broke it out into the different users, and we look at, on the left-hand side, we've got our C-levels, we've got our RevOps, deal desk, finance, our operations type folks. These are the people that are looking for those flows that are broken. Where's the data that we don't have? What kind of insights can we gain? So that's one category of what we've gone and delivered with our AI solutions. Risks and obligations, these are things that legal people are looking for. Where am I exposed? Where did I put in the wrong clauses or dangerous clauses that somehow crept in there? So how can I keep track of that? For sellers, and we'll dive into each one of these in a moment and then take a look at them live in a second as well. So for sellers, how can I help them in generating quotes? How can I optimize pricing, making sure I'm selling at the right pricing, or getting an analysis on my deal? Am I selling the right products? What else could I be selling? Other optional products that I could be included? And even looking at a little bit down the road, we've already got our eyes on what are we going to do for the buyers? How can we provide them some additional assistance? Whether that's, just getting more information, or helping them do their own upselling. If we've already got them engaged, let's let them make some changes, or obviously getting the right personalized information that they'll want to see. So if we jump a little bit closer into these, like I said, for the sales organization, what we've already come out with is real-time price optimization. So I want to start with that one. And I've jumped to the wrong screen. There we go. Now I apologize, I'm showing in a Figma, and the reason I'm showing in a Figma is because price optimization worked really well. It's going to look at 1,000 quotes, and I just don't have a really good 1,000 quotes set up in my environment right now, so to show that. But I want to show how that process actually works. And this is the DealHub environment, how we go and build out of quotes. And just as I mentioned, it is something that's available. Just for our demo purposes, it's much easier to go and show it in this format. I build out a quote. I've got my product lines available to me, whatever's come out through the process. And then I can basically call up an agent, and that agent is going to take in that pricing, and it's going to go and analyze it and look and compare it to up to 1,000 different quotes. Now, it does it in a very intelligent way. It's looking at what products am I selling, what product line am I involved in, what territory I'm selling in, and any other information we want to feed into the system. What I didn't go through, obviously, is when we build out a quote in DealHub, we go through what we call a playbook, where we answer a lot of questions. We pulled in information from the CRM, and all that information is gone and shared with the agent. So the agent can go and look at our quote that we've got here, these 5 lines, compare that to other quotes, and it'll give me an option of here's a great price in terms of how you should sell it, and why is that? So it's going to go and give me an analysis of why it came to. Now, I might not be wanting to go just with the standard. I might want to go with a little more oriented to making a bigger buck sort of thing. So if I can give a lower discount maybe, and then it'll give me an analysis of that as well. Or I might want to go into, no, I need a higher probability of winning this. So we can also move along the scale, and we'll get some additional information as well. Now, it's also doing a deal analysis at the same time. So not just is it going and saying this is the price that you should be selling at, it's also going and selling, you may want to consider adding this other product because of the quotes that we looked at. The winning probability was higher when these quotes were included. So we can give a really good analysis using AI, very practical use case for the salesperson. And we also give them the idea to look at other quotes that are of a similar nature so that they want to compare that. Now, this is really useful directly for salespeople. We've got organizations that we're speaking to right now that want to use it more in their deal desk environment. So those organizations that are helping the salespeople build out the quote, so they're doing the fine tuning, and they're able to then go and adjust and get the right pricing. Once I've gone and decided where I want to be in my pricing, I can apply that pricing. It automatically gets updated into the DealHub environment and updated. Now, what's important is I don't want to just go say, hey, 30% is the discount you should be at. I want to do it on a line-by-line basis because I want to tell it, really optimize it in terms of not giving away too much, but getting the right price on each line. And that's what AI allows us to do, because it can really look at thousands of different points, and it can go and see what's the right pricing. It doesn't obviously supersede any approval processes. It's there to recommend pricing for you, but it does give you ability to go and see what is the right price to do. So we've already got customers that are playing with this right now. I should say more than playing with it, they're actually doing business with it. And this is really something that's really exciting a lot of people, because going back to not wanting to just do AI for the sake of AI, this was a real value point, a real pain point that they saw. How do I know that I'm closing the right deal or the deal in the right price range? And this is a real practical example of utilizing AI. So this is something that's really great, and we're looking for, a lot of customers are really interested in this right now.
Yeah, Eyal, you hit this on the head. There's if some of the research that Caleb was quoting that we were doing, and our experiences in putting these agents out in the wild, what you just described, the creativity that it gives the rep, and still the depth of research it can do on the fly, the real winners of AI agents are the ones that are behind the scenes, uplifting the human experience to deliver something they couldn't do by themselves. So bravo, this is falling perfect into what's actually working.
Yep, absolutely. And then some other things that people are really looking at right now is conversational quoting. So why can't I have a ChatGPT type conversation with an AI and say build it a quote? So we're putting that, working on that right now. Or having an agent to agent. If you have a conversation that's been recorded by Fathom, by Gong, something like that, or email message, why can't I just take that information and have it generate a quote for me, or prepare me a draft of that quote? And these are all practical things that we're working on right now that are really going to help salespeople in the process, when they're going through the sales process. Another area that I talked about was the insights, is the ability to go give our revenue leaders, our C-levels information. They want to get trend analysis. They want to be prepared for QBRs. They want to get live dashboards. They want to get information in real time and understand it, but they're not looking just to go to a BI system that we had a dashboard that was created months ago and it's no longer up to date. They want the ability to go get a dashboard that they can go and build themselves. So we have, for example, our AI insights here that we're looking at. These are various different queries, and I'll show you a query in a moment that we put together. So I've got a dashboard set up with various different information. every one of these was created using a query. So I originally queried it, show me the total number of quotes created, grouped by month. Each month includes the number of quotes, a status one, whatever details I want, and I get that graph in this case, or if I wanted it in a data format, I can get it in a data format. I can decide how I want that presented. I can get an analysis. And what's really cool is we've just added the ability that once you've got that dashboard, if I go back to my dashboard view, I've looked at the dashboard, but now I want to go and dive in a bit deeper into that dashboard. I want to do another set of prompts that I can go and give it. So we can actually continue the process from the last prompt that we had, the dashboard that we had, and continue into that prompt. So it's really, gives you the ability to go get the information that you want, whether you want to come in and look at the dashboard, whether you want a report already prepared and sent off to you. And you can tweak it and tune it to exactly the way that you want it to go and report. It accesses all the data in the system. One of the great things as well, I talked about data security before. The data doesn't leave the system at all. So we're able to analyze it right within the DealHub environment. So we don't have any security issues. And you can basically decide what it is that you want to find out, how many approval processes were stuck, how long did they take, which products did I give discounts to, and had an approval process and it was stuck, and whatever query you want to do on the fly, you're able to go and do that. This is also something that we've been testing now for a little while with customers. It's already out in a limited availability, but we're about to go GA with it, and it's just giving a lot of value to customers because they really can go, operations teams really want to be able to go and slice and dice at the time that they need it, what they want to look for, and this is giving them the ability to go and do that. And jumping on to the next thing is on the legal side of things. So what legal really wants to be able to do is find out where they're at risk, where they have things that have been included in contracts or even obligations that they've been set up for. So they want to be able to go and take a look at that. So what we've done for the legal side of things is we've got our contract repository where every contract is stored once it's gone through the process, you've quoted it, you've saved it, it's been signed off, and we can store that. We can store it back in the CRM, but we can put it back in our repository. And once it's in our repository, we have the ability to go and run AI on it. So if I go and take a look at a contract over here, these are insights that were pulled out by the system. So the notice of requirements, the agreement term, the risk score. This is a really interesting one. Each one of these different insights that I've pulled over here, I built a prompt for it. I told it what to go look for. So the risk score, I told it how to go look at risk. Where do I have unlimited liability? Where do I have deals of a certain size? Where do I have deals in a certain territory that might be of more risk? And I can build out those prompts myself to teach the system how to go and look for things. And what's really amazing, I love it, this is AI world. I was recently showing to a customer in Germany, and they were giving me their German contracts, and I was getting the insights, whether in English or German, I can decide what I want. It knows how to read it. So we don't have to go and set up for different languages. It's already there. Simply plug in your contracts. Different types of contracts, we can look for different insights. So if I'm looking at MSAs, DPAs, my contracts, whatever it happens to be, I have the ability to just set up the insights that I want it to go look for, and it automatically does it every time it stores it. It's able to do it. And we've got some other exciting stuff that we'll be introducing later on AI for contracts as well. But this is one of the big areas that legal teams are always trying to figure out, and obviously they can go search for those things as well. So they can go search, show me all the contracts where I had a high risk score, and then they know how to go and set up their day and go start working through those contracts. So again, some practical things that can be used based off of what these folks really can get some value out of. And the last thing that I wanted to show is a little more to the future, but today what DealHub has is something we call a digital deal room. So when we send out a quote, rather than just sending out a PDF document, which we've been doing since the 1990s and doing it very successfully, but this is the digital age, we want to share content in digital format, so we can share what we call a deal room, and then we can send that information in a much digital format. Now what that means is once we've got a deal room in place, we're actually engaged with the customer. So this is an example of a deal room. And it's all customizable by the customer, not just the brand, but all the content and everything that can come into it. This is where we can present videos, all kinds of different content, but it's also where I go and present my pricing. Now, at any time, I can call up my agent, and then I can have the agent go and give me some additional information. So I might want to type in here, add 5 more admin licenses to my quote. So I'm actually going to give the ability for the end customer to go and upsell themselves. I could provide them several different options of a quote and let them pick the option that they want, or in this case, go at it. Am I happy with that? Yeah, let's go and apply that to my quote. And there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the background as well as we're building out this quote and making sure that it's stored, but we have that ability to give the end customer to serve themselves when that salesperson isn't around. or maybe help build me a case study. So it's going to go and do some generation of information based off of what I'm quoting them and give me some more information. Or maybe even I might ask it to go and say, give me some relevant case studies, and I can go and grab some information about that. Now, obviously, this is from the vendor themselves. If you're the organization that's given this deal room to a customer, it's your information, but basically the salesperson isn't available, whether they're not online or whether in a different region. You have the ability to go and self-serve yourself. So we give the customer the ability to personalize the information they want, get an ROI, get some content, generate their new quotes. So this is the kind of things that we're looking at as well right now. This is a little bit longer term into the year because there's a lot of capabilities here that we're putting together, but this is really giving some exciting capabilities to go and give value to the end customer. So we've talked about ways that we can give salespeople some value, our legal team some value, our management some value, and even the end customers, we're engaging with them in a process. We want to be able to give them some value. So these are some of the practical things that we've been doing with AI right now. And with that, I think we've come to the end.
Right on time too, I will add. So thank you both as the marketing person in the room. That always you always want to stick to schedule. So Eyal, love that, and love seeing is believing as well, right? AI, I mentioned earlier, right? AI has a lot of conceptual value, but it's really hard sometimes to see the practicality of it. And concept without application, I am fond of saying it's just a waste of time. But what we've just seen are practical. Right, it's practical examples of here's what good looks like, and this is what is being done right now today. So we've come to the section. We do have a couple of great questions that have been sent in, so thank you for those. The first one, Andy, this is coming to you, which is the data pyramid. There were a few steps, but insights and knowledge. Normally it stops at insights, but what's the difference? What's the difference between insights and knowledge? Because normally you're turning data into insights and you're taking action upon that. So what's with insights into knowledge?
So the best way I can set that up here is insights are going to guide you along a direction, both positively and negatively. Eyal, I'm going to call back to what you had on one of your slides. It helps you also identify your biases to be able to understand, should I be doing path A or path B, but you're going down a path, right? Those are insights. Now, you can apply a whole bunch of use cases to why insights are important, right? So the differences between insights and knowledge in my vernacular is insights are guiding me, knowledge is changing me, right? So I am going to be learning about why I did a certain thing and why I should be doing it differently, or to double down on something that I did to get to an even better outcome. Does that help answer? Hopefully the individual who threw that answer in can send back in the chat and give me a big old thumbs up or a raspberry and a thumbs down.
let me know, and I will certainly ask follow-ups. I'll be watching for that. Eyal, question for you. There was you mentioned when you were walking through one of the agents, it was pulling from 1,000 quotes. Why 1,000? Why not less? Why not more?
Basically, we're going to the maximum that we can within a time frame that will work within what the maximum we can get. That's going to the AI machines that the learning machines that were models, that we're using. So we're maximizing it. I think it's about 1,000. I can't remember if it's exactly 1,000, but the idea is we want to be able to pull from a very large database because we want to be as accurate as possible. There's going to be nuances, and the more you can choose from. The reality is probably it's not 1,000, like I said, as you start getting into the different geographies, the different product lines and all that, but we do want to be able to pull from as large of a database as we can to go and analyze those quotes.
So this will be my follow-up, which is just, let's say you have 5,000 or 10,000. Would it be more ideal then as you bulk up the repository to pull from all of that, or would that become too large and really slow the system down?
It's really going to slow it down. I'll be honest, we're still going to look and see to tune it to make sure it's the right things. One of the things I did mention we're doing as well is giving you the ability to go and tune it yourself, so you can go and teach it yourself. So maybe don't go look at the last 500, go look at the ones that are even more relevant to that. So we just want to get as large of a database that's going to give us back some data in a realistic time frame and give us still the accurate values that we want to get.
Got it. No, thank you for that. And Andy, I do have a thumbs up, so you did answer the question. Thank you for that. Final question is going to be around risk score that somebody sent that in, right? Because that one I think caught some people's attention. It's not something that you always see. And And so the question, I'm going to reframe it slightly from what was sent in, which is just how, legal's involvement in the development of risk score. When are you pulling them in, and what does that look like into developing your risk calculus that AI is really giving to you? Eyal, I'll pass that to you.
I'll just keep it really simple. We give the legal the ability to go and build out the prompts, and those prompts can be detailed as they want. Like I said, is it a quote that's given unlimited liability? It's in a certain region. It's quoting certain products and all that. So it's not in terms of just creating a score made up of just imagining something. It's really practical things. Legal will know when they go through a contract what constitutes something that's of risk to them, and there's various clauses that they're looking at. So they can build out those prompts themselves, they can decide, and they can give it the score that they want. If they want to say, come back with a score of 1 if this is this and this and this, or come back and just say high risk, low risk, medium risk. We didn't lock it in. We're giving them the ability, realizing everybody looks at things differently, and AI gives us that ability to do that. So tell the AI, this is what I want you to look at, and this is what I want you to come back with the result with if it matches that criteria. So make it really flexible for legal teams to work the way that they want to work.
Makes sense. Andy, just from more of a data architecture perspective, from legal, when are you seeing legal kind of get involved? Not specifically from a risk score calculus, but maybe broader. Are you seeing them pulled in early, or should they be pulled in earlier than they are? What are you seeing?
2 answers. So there is a point when we start talking about data residency.
You are not a robot.
I am not a robot. Yeah. As we're talking about what regions we're going to store data in. Eyal, I don't remember exactly where you brought this in, but risk of, if I am going to be working within GDPR context or things like that, as I am putting together a data strategy, where it's located, how I access it, who accesses it, where do they access it from, all of those come into play. And in today's world, you can't get away with not going to legal counsel as you're putting together where you're going to put your data today, right? So that's kind of answer A. Answer B is, as I am drawing other data sources into my environment, that is also another point of legal review. There's a lot of use licenses out there for different types of data, and data is becoming easier to trace where it comes from, right? So I actually have a real use case here today where I'm pulling in image data from a specific provider, and I'm using it for specific purpose. And I have legal engaged right now to make sure that I'm using it in the full support of the contract I have in place with the provider, to make sure I don't blur a line or try to all of a sudden a super excited, sorry, Caleb, marketer, a super excited marketer is like, oh my gosh, look at this cool information. I could also do this with it. Right? And Eyal, you brought up governance in your side of the conversation too, is applying that level of governance. How do I use the data that I have? When can I use it? When can I not? So there's a bit of setup in the front, and then for how we set it up, and then how we use it in today's world where people are constantly knocking on digital doors everywhere to get at what you have, to be able to sell it back to other people. You have to have legal involved to make sure that your risks are covered and you don't have any exposure points.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both for those. Eyal, if you'll click forward to the last slide on your side, and just number one, thank you. You've made it to the end, whether you are live with us now or if you are, I see you, Andy. Pull out your phones. If you're looking at this on phone on a recording later, well, screenshot it, I guess. But come talk to us. If you want to learn more, the one on the left will take you to DoubleTrack, the one on the right will take you to DealHub, and you can see more of exactly what we talked about, whether it's the data architecture side or whether it is DealHub in action. Some of those AI use cases, they're real. They're real, they're spectacular, to quote the GIF, and they're in use today. And that's, I think, is what is exciting. We're not talking empty concepts here. We're talking practical applications. Start with your data architecture, get that right, get ready for AI, and then crank it. But crank it using a system that's built for it, that's already has, it's not just proof of concept, but it's proof of revenue. Yep. Something that's actually impacting the bottom line. Otherwise, you risk becoming one of the statistics we talked about earlier, where AI adoption might be up, but the impact is actually down. So hopefully you have found this hour valuable. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. Andy, Eyal, thank you both so much for sharing your expertise with us. And for those listening, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. And for those who are here, I will be making sure to reach out personally to get you that lunch as well. So thanks for the time. Everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.